Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Dr. Kiran Hashmi. Thank you Vajia and Danish for inviting me for this session. It's really good to be connected with my students. When I started off just a minute before to check my voice, especially my voice, a number of my students were waving. I was receiving messages, which is indeed such a good feeling to be connected with the students. Obviously, we are all away from universities, we are all away from schools, we are all away from colleges, and yes, we are missing each other. The students are missing their teachers and the teachers are missing their students. So I am also one of them who is desperately whichever university I taught. So I never ever leave an opportunity to meet with them whenever there is any such thing or any such call. So Vajia, great, thank you very much. And if you allow, may I please start the session officially now with your permission? Well, I can see a number of my students. Joining in, which is indeed a very good feeling altogether. All right, so let me start, everybody. My session basically is based, as Vajia has already announced it to you all almost a week before, that it is basically on developing divergent thinking among students. Now, as teachers, we always blame, we always think and we feel frustrated at times, we feel sad at times that our students cannot think outside the box. Many a times we get so frustrated that we start yelling at students, we shout at them, we get frustrated, and we really don't understand what to do. Have we ever thought as teachers, are we really creating something, some strategies, an environment in the class where the students are actually getting an opportunity to think outside the box? But before we understand thinking outside the box, we need to understand what is thinking and what is thinking within the box. Now, thinking is basically a skill that actually helps us to develop an idea in our minds about anything that is around us. It helps us in developing a schema. It helps us in constructing an idea, a concept about anything that we see, that we perceive, and it helps us to make a meaning out of that. That is what our thinking is. Now, when we say thinking, what is thinking within a box? Now, have you seen a little box? I'm sure everybody has seen a box. And within the box, what do? We try to put the things in the box. Now, what happens that it's a constrained box. The box contains the stuff, the material that we put in. Now, what does it indicate? It indicates that whatever ideas we have, whatever thoughts we have, whatever imaginations we have, the concepts that we have are all now contained in a vessel, in a box. That means it has a limited boundary. Now, when as teachers we start thinking, is it good to be thinking within the box? As a teacher, specifically a teacher educator, as a researcher, I think there's no harm in thinking within the box. You know why? Because at least we are thinking. Unfortunately, the kind of schooling that we have, unfortunately I would say, do we really allow our students to think? That's question number one. But if some of my students or some of our students are thinking in the class, and within that there's some problem in the connectivity. Is it so, Vajia? Could you please just comment and let me know? Is it so? I'm sorry everybody, I just have to wait for a minute. Vajia, may I have your message please? Hello? Right, so should I continue with the same speed? All right, Vaji has given me a go that now it's not in a loop because I just received a message from one of the viewers that my voice is repeating. It's coming in a loop. So I think the problem is now cleared. So let me continue from the very same idea that we were speaking, that we were sharing together just about a minute before. So I was talking in terms mainly of what thinking is. Now, thinking, with you, we all know the capacity to make meaning of anything. Mind with the usage of our own intellectual capacity is thinking. Thinking within the box, whether it's contained, whether the material, the information, or the ideas that we have are in a vessel, that's perfectly fine, because the schools that we are coming from, it does not allow the teacher. The schools are so constrained with such a prescribed curricula to follow, they do not allow the students to think. So if out of 100 students sitting in the classrooms, 2 or 3 students have the capacity to think within the box, is also an achievement for me. And I really appreciate those teachers who try to develop that thinking within students, which is extremely important. Now, thinking within the box, as I told you all, is something that at least, let me put it, okay, that at least the students are able to make meaning. The students are able to create questions. Like, for example, as a teacher, when I stand in the classroom and I share something, if out of 40 students sitting in my classroom, one student raises her hand and says, "Miss, I have a question." Whatever you're saying, is it really in the same meaning the way you're sharing? Or is there something else connected? Now, that's for me is the beginning to help my learners think. Because you see, whenever anything is straight away given, there's always, the students are always at a receiving end. We are just giving and they're taking. But the way they are taking, are they really understanding the meaning of it, is what we all talk about, which is extremely important. जब एक बच्चा भी क्लास में सोचना शुरू करता है और ये सवाल शुरू करता है कि मिस ने मुझे ये कॉन्सेप्ट समझाया, तो ये कॉन्सेप्ट की रेलेवेंस क्या है, ये कॉन्सेप्ट मुझे रिलेट कैसे करता है, ये कॉन्सेप्ट मेरी लर्निंग को इन्हांस कैसे करता है, या आखिर ये कॉन्सेप्ट है क्या, टीचर ने दे दिया बट क्या मैंने समझा. दिस फॉर मी एज अ टीचर इज़ द बिगिनिंग ऑफ डाइवर्जेंट थिंकिंग. द मोमेंट you start questioning, the moment when your students start thinking about any particular concept that has been taught in the class. Now this is about thinking. Thinking से जब हम थोड़ा सा और आगे बढ़ते हैं तो हम दूसरी जो बात करते हैं वो बात करते हैं thinking within the box, जैसे मैं आपसे अभी बात कर रही थी. कतई तौर पे इसमें कोई बुराई नहीं है कि हम बॉक्स के अंदर सोचें तो सही. बात तो सारी ये है कि सोचे तो सही. हमारे कितने स्टूडेंट्स एज टीचर्स, ऑल ऑफ द वंस हु आर हियर विथ मी टुडे, you people will vouch. Just imagine your own classroom. You are standing as a teacher and you are teaching anything, be it a school, be it a university, be it a college, or be it in any teacher education or any professional institution. Think. Just think for a minute. A 45 minutes lesson, a 30 minutes lesson, 60 minutes lesson, 90 minutes lesson, or a 3 hours lesson. How many times your students try to ask questions? Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times, or not even a single time. Research, very recent research, 2019, this I'm quoting of one of my own students who did it last year, and it's mashallah say published. This was basically on developing divergent thinking, and according to one of the findings of that, from the schools, which was from class, she took elementary from class 7 to 9. The finding says that 10% of the students out of 100% have the capacity to raise questions. And the quality of their questions basically were all low order. Mainly what and why, no how. The students are unable to actually make a meaning, create a question, and think of a possible solution to that. Now, while I was supervising that research of my student, I was thinking to my own self, as a teacher, it was a self-reflecting point for me. As a teacher, how many times did I allow my students to think? Maybe within the box, that's not a problem. But how many times did they really think? And it was an eye-opener. Despite being a constructivist teacher, despite being a student-friendly teacher, despite giving students an opportunity to create knowledge in my presence, despite being a facilitator, I hardly give an opportunity to students to raise questions. Now, if a teacher, I'm not boasting, but if a teacher like me who believes in constructivism is not giving an opportunity to students to think, what about those teachers who are teaching through traditional methods? The ones who are still following the very same pedagogies which are now obsolete. Think about it, just a question for you to reflect on. Now, when we talk about thinking, let me just take a step ahead from here. Divergent thinking. Now, there are two kinds of thinkings that I always appreciate my teachers, my teacher educators, my prospective teachers to think while they prepare their lessons or while they teach their lessons. Now, when we talk about developing critical thinking, when we try to think of developing creative thinking, there are basically two ideas which comes in our mind. The first idea is of convergent thinking. The other is divergent thinking. Now, convergent thinking and divergent thinking are two very commonly used terms and has come from the lenses. We have concave lenses and convex. Similarly, in a very similar mode, we have convergent thinking and divergent thinking. Now, convergent thinking is something which is unilateral, something which is given by the teacher, but that also allows students to think, but in a restricted manner. Teachers do give this opportunity to the students to raise questions, to make meanings, to think about the topics or the components that are being taught to them, but in a very restricted, constrained manner. Looking at the conditions around in the schools that we are living in, the context that we are all been a part of, for me, even developing convergent thinking is something I'll go for. At least the student is given an opportunity to think. But when we talk about divergent thinking is almost the opposite of convergent. In divergent thinking, the word divergent is coming from the word diversion, which means drifting. The way we have diversions on roads, similarly we have divergence in thinking. It's very, very common. Now, what do we do in divergent thinking? Now, within divergent thinking, the word divergent comes in from the word that means changing the direction. Changing the direction. It is the capability of the mind to produce ideas which are not agreed on basis of the expectations that the society has. To make it more simpler, if I tell you, अगर कोई इंसान, अगर कोई बच्चा कुछ डिफरेंट सोचता है जो हमारे कॉन्टेक्स्ट से मैच नहीं करता या मेरी एक्सपीरियंस से मैच नहीं करता या मेरी सोच से मैच नहीं करता, उससे मैं null and void कर देती हूँ as a teacher. But in reality, if I look at it, educationally, if I look at it, intellectually, if I look at it, this is an example of divergent thinking, because that particular learner has the capacity, the intellectual capacity to drift from the mainstream knowledge that is being provided by the teacher and think in a way which is extremely different. This is what is known as divergent thinking. Now, divergent thinking, from where it actually started. It started from Edward de Bono's very famous psychologist. Edward de Bono in 1967 came up with this idea, and it was a part of his research that he was conducting. I was reading Dr. De Bono's paper today before coming in for this session, and I found a very interesting experiment that he did in one of the classes. In one of the schools where he was actually conducting a research, he went there and he started asking random questions. So out of 100 students whom he took as a sample, though it was not supposed to be a formal research, but it turned into be a formal research. So while he was discussing it with the students and he just was asking simple questions, out of 100 students, there were only 2 students who gave him answers which were different. The rest of them, out of 100, 98 students' answers were very similar. He was very happy to hear the responses of those 98. When the 2 remaining students, XYZ, gave something else, it shook him. But then when he was in the class, it did not make much of a difference to him. He came back, and this is what he has written in his own book, in his chapter, which is available on the internet. You can go, you can check, and you will come to know that it is an interesting reading. He wrote that while I tried to sleep at night and was thinking of the responses which the students gave, 98 responses did not touch my heart. Those 2 responses did. He said, I questioned my own self, why those 2? And then his mind told him, because they were different. Because nobody else thought in those manners. Because they were the ones who came in from a different idea which nobody else was coming. Let me give you an example of qualitative research. Now, while I was conducting my PhD research in qualitative, and I really have a lot of respect, gratitude, love for my supervisors who taught me qualitative, that yes, now I can help my peers, my colleagues and my students in doing qualitative analysis. Absolutely yes. So while I was collecting my data, it was really interesting to see that most of my interview responses were very similar. And when I sat to do the analysis, I was very happy. Oh wow, everybody is talking about the same things. It's so easy to do the coding. It's so easy to do thematization. It's so easy to do epochy. But there was one respondent whose interview was 100% divergent from the remaining interviews. I sat with my supervisors, and my supervisors were so nice that they used to discuss each and everything in front of me. Such interesting learning experiences I had in my life with those 2 people. God bless them. That's the only thing I can say. But while I was discussing, so my supervisor, one of my supervisors, the principal supervisor, asked me, okay Kiran, whatever interviews you have got, whatever responses you have got, can you summarize them for me? And I started summarizing them, that yes, all of them have said this, all of them have said this, all of them have said this, and this. My second supervisor, who was my co-supervisor, questioned, is there anything different that you found? And I said yes, there was one interview which was very different. I just kept it aside. I thought it's not necessary. Both of them looked at me and said, do you know, lady, the one that is different is your study. Because what everybody says is a part of your social fabric. It's a part of the social construct that is there. But if somebody comes up with a different idea, the experiences, the intellectual capacity, and the meaning that person has of life is very different. That is the area where you need to analyze. And from there I started understanding the importance of divergence. Now this was just a little prelude that I wanted to share with you about divergent thinking. Please everyone, as teachers, I know all those who are listening to me right now are all teachers. Please appreciate differences. Please appreciate all those divergent ideas that comes in from your students. Anything. Please never say that whatever you are saying in the class is wrong, because you have not accepted it, because you have not thought of it, because you have not observed it in your life. But the students' minds are telling them that this is something different than what has already been happening. Appreciate that. Now from here, I'll quickly take you to a few elements of divergent thinking. Now, when we talk about elements of divergent thinking, obviously, like any other thinking, there are certain important elements to read, to understand, to analyze, and also to implement in your teaching. It will really help you all out, and you will start seeing a difference in your students. The very first element which Dr. De Bono has given is lateral thinking. Now, a question for you all. What is lateral thinking? Now, I'm taking a pause for a minute, and I would like my audience to share responses. In your comments, please feel free to write at least 1 to 2 so that I get an idea that yes, you know what lateral thinking means. Anybody? Any message, any comment if I can have on lateral? Nobody's interested? Okay. Lateral thinking, basically, I think there's no option of sharing comments if I'm not wrong. Vajia, can the audience share their comments, please? Text and inform me. I'll appreciate, darling. Alright. Now, lateral thinking basically means it's a problem solving technique which includes step-by-step procedures where step-by-step procedure and a linear approach to come to a conclusion. Now, within lateral thinking, Dr. De Bono says that when you try to develop thinking among students and when you try to develop divergent thinking, specifically divergent thinking, the first element that you need to think of is lateral. You have to create an environment in the class within your planning where you're giving an opportunity to your students to crack down the knowledge into pieces. The students should be able to think of a problem, the content that you have shared, the component that you have shared, the material that you have shared, divide it into smaller components, right? And convert it into a problem. If the student can convert that into a problem and develop a step-by-step procedure and mechanism of solving that, that becomes a part of lateral thinking. Now, if this particular element is developed in the classroom, it is a lifelong learning skill. Every time when the learner will try to find a solution to a problem, be it a domestic problem, social problem, financial problem, emotional problem, any kind of problem, the child, the learner will go through the process of lateral thinking. Lateral thinking will help the learner understand, put them into steps, organize, and then find a proper solution. This is the first element of lateral thinking to develop divergent thinking. Now, the second important idea which Dr. De Bono has shared in terms of developing divergent thinking is deducting. And most of the teachers in this session, I'm aware of these two terms. We often use it specifically when we plan lessons, and specifically the prospective teachers. Ma'am, Kiran, generally students comes to me and say, Kiran, I have made an inductive lesson. I said, wow, but what have you done? Kiran, I have made a deductive lesson. Excellent. Now, inductive and deductive are the two important elements of developing divergent thinking. What is the meaning of the word deduction? Deduction means to deduce, right? To take. Induction means to give. Now, when we are trying to develop divergent thinking, Dr. De Bono says that you need to create within your lessons while you are teaching, while you are talking, specifically when you are in the class with your students and dealing with any particular topic that you want to teach or you are teaching. Please create an environment where you are not only deducing all the time from the students and letting them think, but at times you are inducing as well. Now, at times it is good to share information. At times it is good to induce. At times it is good to give a lot of information to students, because once they have the information, it's easier for them then to put into lateral thinking, and then later stages you can deduce. Induction and deduction are one of the key components or elements or stages of developing creative thinking skills among students, right? Now, after induction and deduction, the third important thing that we talk about is analyzing and synthesizing. Now, we all as teachers are aware of analysis and synthesis. We all use Dr. Bloom's taxonomy in our lessons like anything. It is so religiously used. Unfortunately, I was having a conversation with a group of my students, and they said, the only taxonomy we know is Bloom's. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's what you know. There are many other taxonomies that helps you to develop your learning outcomes. Anyway, coming from Bloom's taxonomy, the fourth and the fifth elements, which are the higher order thinking skills, are analyzing and synthesizing. Now, any information, any material, any content that we are sharing with the students, we are giving them as teachers an opportunity to synthesize and to analyze. Now, if the students are doing synthesis and analysis, they're actually developing divergent thinking. Analysis means to break down the information into pieces and make meaning. Synthesize means to put the information together as one and make a meaning, right? Like, for example, currently in today's COVID-19 situation, there are mixed reviews in the society. Like, for example, in my university also, some of my colleagues and faculty are saying, no, it's a conspiracy. It doesn't exist. The other says, no, it's there. Some of the departments are closing down. I'm talking about my own university, not about any other place. Some of the departments are closing down. The university management says, comes to work. But what is really happening? Now, as being an intellectual individual, and if I have the capacity to think, if I have the capacity to do divergent thinking, I will be able to make a meaning, be able to synthesize the information and make a meaning. That helps me make my own understanding. And then if I have a strong rationale coming in, I can very easily stand and defend and say, this is how it is. This is what it is. This is according to this is how this is happening. Yes, it might be true to some extent, it might not be true, and I need to provide a rationale. Now, as a student, if I'm able to do that, and if my teacher is instilling that in me, that's the success. And that's the way we can develop critical thinking and divergent thinking among students. Moving from here, the next element that Dr. De Bono stresses upon is differentiating. Now, before differentiating, there's another stage which at times, in fact, most of the times in higher order thinking skills are merged with differentiation, and that is identification. Now, when we give a content or a problem or a situation or any material, anything to our students in the classroom, we ask them to identify the important elements. We ask them to identify the salient features. We ask them to identify the key components. Now, if the students are doing that on their own, it means they are able to use their thinking to make a meaning of that content. Now, once the students identify the key areas or the key problems or the key issues or the key components, then they should be able to differentiate. Now, when I use the word differentiate, what do I actually mean? Now, by differentiation, I mean I'm able to distinguish what is right, what is wrong, what is needed, what is not needed, what is more important, what is less important, what has to be given a higher preference and what is to be given a lower preference. Again, this is done in the classroom, but it develops a lifelong learning skill. Learner, if he or she is able to identify and differentiate life, no matter what, the student will continue to identify the problems and differentiate and then categorize and then take solutions accordingly, step by step. These are all the elements. Now, after identification, differentiation, lateral thinking, deduction, induction, the last but the most important element of developing critical thinking is divergent thinking is critical thinking itself. A question: what actually is critical thinking? Critical thinking होती क्या है? हम इतनी देर से thinking की बात कर रहे हैं. Critical thinking is also a mode of thinking. It is something where we are thinking, synthesizing, analyzing, critiquing, making meanings, finding solutions, augmenting problems, right? We are actually developing a logical association of the thing, of the stuff, of the material, of the problem, of the issue that is there, and finding a meaning of that, finding a solution to that based on scientific. This is critical thinking. If as teachers we are able to develop critical thinking, excellent. It's not easy. We feel as if it's easy, but yes, it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of planning. It requires a lot of thinking itself. Teachers really need to think a lot. Are we really doing critical thinking? Just raising a question in the classroom is not critical thinking. Just finding a solution to any problem is not critical thinking. Right? Now, here, whatever I have spoken about so far is about thinking, is about divergent thinking and the elements of developing divergent thinkings. From here, I will now take all of you to certain strategies that as teachers we can apply in our own classrooms, which will help us in developing divergent thinking among students. If you would like to write them down, you may. If not, Dr. DeBonos, again, I have actually taken it from his book, so you can take it from there. There are certain ideas. Share this link with Wajiha and Danish, and then probably they may post it on their page, and then you'll come to know and read it. It's a very, very good reading. It has a lot of information, a lot of practical insights that you may use as a teacher. Coming to the strategies, the very first strategy that actually helps in developing divergent thinking among students is brainstorming. Yes, actually not simple. What do we do as teachers in brainstorming? We actually give them a word, a concept, a key idea, and ask them to let their ideas flow. This flow of ideas is the first initial strategy that we apply. From simple brainstorming, you can then take your students to higher order concept mapping. There are multiple varieties of concept mapping, from simple bubble to double bubble to multiple bubble to complex webs, and then the students are actually able to generate multiple ideas on his or her own on the content that you have shared. This is the very first strategy. Moving from brainstorming, the second strategy that we actually use to develop critical thinking or divergent thinking is letting students question. How do we do that in the classroom? Our class is only 45 minutes and we have to complete the lesson, we have to complete the syllabi, we have to prepare for exams. No, it's not easy. Teachers, it is very easy. What you can do is to begin with, as I did and I still do with some of my students who are still teaching, if your lesson is for 45 minutes, start realizing while you're preparing that you need to have at least to begin with 3 to 5 intervals where you take a pause and let your students question. Where will they question? When we start the lesson, the beginning or the warm-up, or you can say the introductory part, start your lesson with a question. Let students think. What is it? Develop curiosity among students by letting them raise questions. Miss, sir, teacher, auntie, Kiran, what are we studying today? What is it about? How is it related to me? How can I use it in my lifelong learning? Let the student think. If you from the beginning start thinking that I'm going to have 3 minimum to at least 5 places in the entire lesson where my students will raise questions, this is the beginning of developing divergent thinking. You will see that with the passage of time, the students will start asking questions from low order to higher order. That is what we actually need. The third strategy that I would suggest you all is reverse the question. What is reversing the question? Reversing the question basically means that earlier I used to just give affirmative sentences in the class. Students, this is COVID-19. We have been asked to stay home. Let's reverse the question. Dear students, this is COVID-19 and we have been asked to stay at home. Why do you think so? If you were the Prime Minister or if you were the people, the executives, how would you have managed it? Is there any other solution can you think of? How can we control this pandemic? What can we do together as students, as teachers, as citizens to control? Are there any ideas? Reverse the question. Because you see, when we talk about simple, straightforward things, at times it's not it's not conducive for the students to gain the information that we are giving. But whenever we try to just twist it, mold it in a form of a question, it's more convenient. And then students tend to get a lot of from there. That is something which is very important. Very, very important. Right? So moving from reversing the question, start thinking that if you were asking this type of an affirmative, for example, if you were sharing this type of an affirmative sentence, what could you do? For example, an example that I just wrote, how to increase my income during this COVID, because I'm really concerned about it, right? As parents, as students, what can we do? We are just sitting home. There's nothing much to do. Is there anything that you can suggest? Is there anything that we can do together? What could be the multiple sources of earning? What could be the multiple sources of earning? Right? Can you think of something? Can you help your parents? Can you help the community who is actually suffering from this economic loss? How can we actually help those people who are going through a psycho-emotional trauma? What suggestions do you have? You see, it's actually the very same idea that you are sharing, but what you have done, you have changed the pattern. And while changing the pattern, the students are actually getting an opportunity to think divergently in a different way and will come up with multiple ideas. This is how you can develop divergent thinking. Now, moving from reversing questions, the other thing that I also said in the beginning, but I'm going to now emphasize more on that, is let us celebrate the differences. Now, while I'm asking questions, while I'm appreciating my students and encouraging my students to think differently, what am I actually asking them? It's not necessary that out of 30 students or out of 40 students sitting in my class, I get the same response. If I am getting a varied response, that's the success. Every response is coming from an experience. Every response is coming from something that person has gone through. Start accepting, and when you'll sit, when in the class, when you'll start culminating responses, you will see that you will find a very strong, a very coherent, and very comprehensive idea of the topic that you have taught while celebrating students' differences. In terms of the responses, in terms of their thinking, in terms of their approaches, start appreciating that. Once you will start doing that, you will see that not only the knowledge will expand in the classroom, there will also be a lot of new construction of knowledge that will happen. And that is what we want as divergent thinkers and divergent teachers and students to happen in our classrooms. Now, the third important thing of developing divergent thinking is inquiry-based feedback. We are very used to and very, very fond of correcting copies because this is a part of our job. We need to that. We just check, tuck, and we give it to them. But as a teacher, have we really thought that if I'm deducting a mark of a student, if I'm saying your work was not of quality, or you have not written the way as I've expected, or you were expected, what am I doing? I'm actually discouraging the student. So what am I supposed to be doing? I actually have to start giving them inquiry-based feedback. Now, how to give an inquiry-based feedback? Inquiry-based feedback actually comes in from the idea that you ask the students to do an assignment or a project or whatsoever you have given, and the student has shared that with you. Now, at the time when you have to give the feedback, convert your feedback into a challenging question, a question that ignites students' thinking, which itself is an inquiry. Student need to find the answer of that by his or her own. The student need to understand why the teacher has given this inquiry-based feedback. Why is it so? And if the student is able to find the answer of that why, this is another step towards achieving critical thinking or diversity. This is something that you people need to do. Most of the efforts are to be done by the teachers in the class, and you will see the outcomes. This feedback is actually something that will help you, not only you, also your students, to develop divergent thinking. Now, the next strategy, which is strategy number 5, in terms of developing critical thinking, is encouraging play and handle failure. Now, this is something, the playway activity as suggested by Dewey. Yes, research internationally as well as locally, it has proved that students construct and create knowledge when they are given an opportunity to play. Because while they play, their minds are free. When their minds are free, they actually create new ideas. Because whatever the minds, the insights and their intellects tell them, they use the material that is around them, they use their bodies, they use all the environment that is around them to create. Now, once they start creating, that is the step when they have developed or are at the edge of developing critical thinking or divergent thinking, which is extremely important. Now, obviously, if they're creating something, creation is not perfect all the time. We cannot expect everything to be perfect every minute. Not possible. If my by their own hands, by their own intellect, by their own thinking, with each other, with the environment, with the material, they will have to face failure, which is absolutely all right, because failure will help them understand why the material that they have collected did not work. Which steps did they follow were actually not right for them to create what they wanted to. If they're able to question and if they're able to improve upon that, excellent. Excellent. Kudos on that. So that is another strategy that you may use to develop critical thinking. Now, another important strategy that you may use is using alternative tasks. Now, we are very fond, or maybe I can say that we are in a comfort zone of mainly thinking in terms of the very, I won't call them traditional, but I would rather call them mostly used tasks. Pair work, group work, writing from the book, finding. That's absolutely all right. I'm not against it. But what we suggest here is that once you are giving tasks, as a teacher, when you plan, start thinking of using alternative tasks. If you have already used one which you now feel the students are saturated with, or the students already know how to do it, or you think there's no challenge for them, fair enough. Think of something else. The moment you change the task for them, the level of curiosity, the level of challenge, and the level of thinking will come within students. So that is another strategy that as teachers we use in the class while tasks on a regular basis, not on a regular basis, but yes, with intervals. Now, after that, another important strategy, which for me is one of the most interesting ones, and I almost do it in all my classes. Some of my students who are here will definitely vouch for it, that yes, Kiran does it all the time. Be the devil's advocate. When you give a task to the students, When you give them something to come up on their own, when you ask them to create or construct or form or deform knowledge, analyze or synthesize, when they share their responses, do we accept the way they are given? Challenge them. I'm not saying that discourage them. I'm not saying be an inhumane person. I'm not saying be ridiculous. No, I'm saying play devil's advocate. When you start playing devil's advocate and when you start challenging their thoughts, you will see that the students will start coming up with a very strong rationale, because the students will then try to defend what they have created. And once they get into that mode of defending, their rationalization, the ability to rationalize, the ability to synthesize will enhance. This research has proven. Do that. Try to do that and you will definitely be seeing a difference in that. Now, I would rather say second last strategy. As a teacher, to develop divergent thinking, one thing which is very important, in fact extremely important for all of us is to establish a tolerant environment. Respect, just remember the 3 principles. If you are able to principles in the class, it will be the most successful class ever and your students will cherish it for the rest of their lives. Respect, acceptance, appreciation. If you're able to develop a tolerant classroom, if you're able to develop a tolerant environment with the 3 fundamental principles of respect, acceptance and appreciation, your students will definitely push themselves. They will encourage, they will urge, they will definitely be giving an opportunity to their own selves by developing the thinking that you are asking them to. That's very important. And last strategy that I want to share with you all is again something very, very interesting, important. Embrace creativity. Please, teachers, it is very important for us to embrace creativity of our students, be it in any form. If the student comes up with something in terms of writing, oral communication, music, play, anything, embrace it. Because if you do that, if you encourage that, if you appreciate that, students will get an opportunity to develop that. Because one discouragement is actually a failure for the rest of their lives. So that is something which I will really, really appreciate if you could do that and see how the importance of that in your classrooms. Now, this is all what I want. One more. I'm sorry. There's one more very, very important which actually helps in developing divergent thinking, and that strategy is of cooperation and collaboration. Now, when we talk about cooperation and collaboration, yes, I'm promoting cooperative learning. I'm also promoting group work. I'm also promoting pair work. I'm also promoting trials. Now, let the students work together. Let them question each other. Let them challenge each other. Let them think of what they are doing together. And you will definitely be seeing an important change in the learning, in the way they think, in the way they approach, and also in the way they come up to a reason, to an answer, to a conclusion to any problem they have shared. So with this, I actually come to an end of my session. I was been given 45 minutes. I will welcome your questions. Let me see the comments that have come, and I'll try to respond to everybody. Alright, I am sorry, but the comments are unfortunately not appearing here on my mobile. If anybody would like to ask, but yeah, if you could please help me in getting those questions so I may answer, please. I cannot even see them on Facebook. All right, Vajia. Okay, one comment which my Vajiha has just written. Everybody loves you. Thank you very much, everyone. This is indeed. I don't know. I'm overwhelmed with the love, with the appreciation. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Vajia says teachers wants more sessions. I would love to do these kind of sessions. I am a very, very, very student-friendly teacher. In fact, I am a teacher educator, and the best time of my day is with teachers, so I would definitely be willing to join if Vajia and Danish invites me. You can see comments later. Okay, I'll see the comments later, and I will try to give responses to almost each one of you. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope my session helped you in not only understanding thinking, it also helped you in understanding divergent thinking. It must have helped you understand the elements, the basic principles, and yes, of course, the strategies. I'll really, really encourage, appreciate, and in fact really request you all to start applying them in your classes. See the results, share with us. Please feel free to share with us. We'll definitely be there to help you all out. Try once, irrespective of the fear of failure, because unless we won't see failure, we will not feel the importance of success. Try it. Little things, but do try them, and start thinking in the mode of developing thinking, because that's very important, and that's the area which I think as a nation all of us actually wants to think of. Thank you very much, everybody. Much love. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay happy. Please spread positivity around and take care of yourselves. Thank you.